Good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Kotroušová. I am a PhD student at the Faculty of Law of University of West Bohemia, and today I would like to tell you something about my contribution, which is dedicated to a very narrow topic connected to cohabitation. I will be talking about mainly the Czech legislation considering ART or assisted reproduction and cohabitation, and I will also touch on the broader European context. First of all, I would like to briefly mention the legal framework of cohabitation and assisted reproduction in the Czech Republic. I will continue to what has been said today about cohabitation. We do not have any legal definition in the Czech Republic of cohabitation. We only use the term close person to grant some rights to cohabitants. In my contribution, I was also using the definition that was set down by the Commission of European Family Law, and that is described in the principles of European family law. And according to this definition, as it has been mentioned before, de facto unions or cohabitation is a union where two persons live together as a couple in an enduring relationship. Therefore, there is no it is not important whether those persons are of the same sex or of the opposite sex. On the other hand, there is a kind of good regulation on the assisted reproduction in the Czech Republic. It is regulated by sections 3 to 11 of the Act on Specific Health Services. Assisted reproduction, or ART, is a set of methods that are used to perform artificial insemination of women in two specific cases. The first one is treatment of infertility or subfertility if other ways of treatment were not successful or are not likely to be successful. The second option is a way of early diagnosis of genetically conditioned diseases that can be passed on the future child by either the woman or the man from the infertile couple. The key term here from this act is the infertile couple. It is very closely connected to the question whether or not have cohabitants under the Czech law access to ART. The infertile couple is defined as a man and a woman who intend to undergo the ART treatment together. We can see that this definition is very wide. It has no requirements as to the quality nor the duration of the relationship. It only needs that those persons are a man and a woman. Therefore, at least some of the cohabitants in the Czech Republic can have access to ART, but not all of them, as I will explain later. We can examine this issue from two different dimensions. The first one is the question if both of the cohabitants have formed the infertile couple and have undergone ART together. If both of these cohabitants were also parts of the infertile couple, they will both become legal parents of the child. The woman based on the fact that she gave birth to the child, and the man based on one of the presumptions of paternity, in this case, the one that is binded to giving informed consent to ART or to artificial insemination. In the other case, when only one of the cohabitants is a part of the infertile couple, the consequences will be different. Such situation can be, for example, if the cohabitation formed after the ART was done, but before the child was born. In this situation, only the cohabitant who was in the infertile couple will be the legal parent of the child. The other one cannot get into the position of the legal parent of the child unless he or she concludes marriage with the other cohabitant. But then we cannot talk anymore about cohabitation. If there is no marriage following this, the other cohabitant can be only a social parent of the child and has no parental responsibility to the child. The second dimension is very closely connected to the first one. It lies in the question who are or who were the cohabitants. If the cohabitants are of the opposite sex, they can definitely have access to ART. On the other hand, if the cohabitants are two men or two women, they cannot access ART together as a couple. However, it is not excluded that one of them will access ART if they form the infertile couple with some other person of the opposite sex. We can discuss if this course of action is in accordance with the law or if it actually circumvents the law. But we must admit that those situations can happen in practice and probably happen in practice. Now we can move on to the European context. In this part of the contribution, I was analyzing data from various surveys, researchers, and analyses, as well as from some legal acts from different countries. I was mainly using the European Society of Human Reproduction and Embryology survey from 2020 and the IFFS surveillance from 2013. If we look at those data, we can see that ART is a very popular method amongst European countries. There is also no unified approach to this issue of access. Although we can find more or less homogeneous groups of countries that regulate access to ART in a similar way, not in the same one, but in a very similar one. And those countries usually differ not only in the way to whom do they grant access to ART, but also in the way what methods are actually legal in that particular country, or what methods are accessible for what type of applicant. There are four basic groups. The first one grants access only for opposite-sex couples. The second one grants access also to single women. The third one grants access also to same-sex female couples. And the last one grants access to all same-sex couples, single women, and opposite-sex couples. There you can see examples of countries from each group. It is obvious that Czech Republic falls into the first group, alongside with Slovakia or Poland, Switzerland or France or Turkey. This group, which allows access only to opposite-sex couples, is not actually does not actually differ in its own as to what type of a relationship has to be amongst the opposite sex partners. They can be both married and cohabitating. The only country that requires strictly marriage was Turkey, but I think, in my opinion, it is quite understandable given to its different cultural and religious background and conditions. Other than that, countries usually allow, alongside marriage, for the couple to be also in a so-called stable relationship, which is a very wide term. It is not defined, so cohabitation can for sure fall into this scope. Countries in this group also differ in terms of what methods are allowed for what type of couples. Let's take Switzerland, for example. Under the Swiss law, it is possible for both married and unmarried opposite-sex couples to access ART. However, the unmarried opposite-sex couples can get access only to ART with using their own cells. On the other hand, married couples can get access to ART both using their own cells and using donor sperm. This approach is being widely criticized, not only for being discriminatory against unmarried opposite-sex couples, but also for being discriminatory against same-sex couples. Countries from the second group, which allows access to single women as well, count, for example, Croatia or Hungary. This group of countries is continuously growing. The same can be said for the third group, which is the biggest group right now, and which counts countries like Finland or the Netherlands, Spain, Portugal, or Belgium. There is a clear trend amongst European countries in allowing access more and more to same-sex female couples and/or to single women. Not so much to same-sex male couples. It is, in my opinion, quite understandable, because if we think about granting access to ART to males, we have to think about also legalizing surrogacy, because two males will never be able to obtain child without the help of a woman. However, surrogacy is a very delicate topic in many countries these days. To conclude my contribution, I can say that the Czech approach to cohabitation and ART is both liberal and strict. It is liberal in the way that it allows access to opposite sex cohabitants, and it has no requirements as to the length of the relationship, nor to the intensity of the relationship, and so on. On the other hand, it excludes the same-sex cohabitants. They can, as individuals, access the ART if they form the infertile couple with some other person of the opposite sex. But that is in its own way a circumventing of the law. We can also see that there is a clear trend amongst European countries that are progressing more and more towards allowing access to ART, at least to same-sex female couples or to single women. Looking at this trend, we can ask ourselves a question, or we can set a question for discussion, if the Czech legislation should also change and follow this European trend. I will not answer this question right now. I would leave it for a discussion, but I will only mention that it is also closely connected to the question how we view ART as a whole. How do we understand it? The Czech approach nowadays is the one that it is a treatment of infertility or subfertility, a medical treatment for a disease, not an enhancement. And that is an approach I can agree with. On the other hand, the opposite approach is viewing ART as a mean to fulfill one's reproductive rights or to a way to dealing with involuntarily childlessness. That is all I wanted to tell you today. And I would like to thank you for your attention, and also thank you very much for allowing me to be here with you today. I appreciate it a lot. Have a nice day.